Welcome, everybody, and here we are again with Sue Brayne, astrologer extraordinaire, and my good self, Gail Carroll, tarot reader. And we are working our way through the Major Arcana with the Fool's Journey of Enlightenment. And we've hit the middle of the pack, really, haven't we? The Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, and Justice. And I have been reflecting on this, Sue, and I think that what has happened now is the Fool has met all these people that we've gone through, yes, and now there's a bit of time for a bit of self-reflection, a bit of self-studying, because along the way we all make mistakes, and it's only by looking back and thinking about those can we grow and move forwards. And I think that our Fool is now in that period of karmic discovery. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are he's beginning to realize there's a little bit more to life than he thought. There is a huge underworld of who he is that it's beginning to call, the unconscious is beginning to call him.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. It's like he's entering into the alchemical process of the great cycle of life and death.
Yes. So
shall we start with, I've got our friend the Hermit here.
Yes.
It is.
Card number 9. What do we know about 9s?
Well, 9 is a kind of, it's just before, it's a time of it can be a time of completion. It really does.
Completion.
Sorry?
It's kind of that progression, that
step
before.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really interesting. If you turn 9 upside down, it becomes a 6. So, you know, and 6 is the number of wanting to share love and be with people and have that heart experience. Well, the 9 is actually about completion, and we've got here the Hermit, and he's holding his little lantern, and this is really the card of going inward. Hang on a second. I think quite what I thought they would be, but I want to say something about his staff, because at the weekend I was at a festival and with earth energy people, and they were describing how the staff is imbued with the spirit of the tree that the staff comes from, but also from the planetary energies. So he may be physically alone, but he is in touch with the earth and with the cosmos through his staff. And I thought that.
Like a conductor.
Absolutely. Yes. So how else do you read this?
Well, he's got his little lantern, hasn't he?
Yes.
Which is very symbolic, because although it's lighting the way, it's not lighting it very far. So to me, it's about not jumping too far ahead. It's more about looking about what's around you right now, the past, what has gone on. He's also dressed quite plainly. So it's about getting rid of all those trinkets, those earthly, worldly distractions, as it were, and just, as you say, becoming introspective, going into yourself, and then learning all about what you've learned, so that you can then take it onto your journey, learn from it in a positive way, and move on. A little bit of karmic influence as well. What goes around comes around, definitely with our next card, number 10, the Wheel of Fortune.
Yes.
So it's a time for introspection and reflection.
Yes, and also he's traditionally the Hermit is symbolizes Saturn, the father of time. So Cronus, the father of time, Saturn and Cronus are actually the same. One's Greek and one's Roman. But I think the other thing for me is this sort of concept of when we go inwards, maybe there is a depression going on, or a feeling like, you know, life isn't quite what I expected it to be. And what does that mean to me? And this sort of call, there's something greater calling him to stop. It really is time to take stock and not be afraid of being alone. And most of us are very afraid of being alone. So this
Yeah.
sense of coming back to himself. And it is the card traditionally associated with Virgo. And one of the words associated with Virgo is discernment. So I
Mm.
would say by going inwards, he's learning to discern what's real and what isn't.
Yes. And also another Virgoan trait is that ability to be on your own but not be alone.
Yes.
It's that journey of, you know, and it sometimes it's difficult. Do you understand what I mean when I say be on your own but not feel
Absolutely.
alone?
It's the difference between being lonely and being
Yeah.
alone.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other thing is about the power of soul searching. And sometimes we do need to go into retreat
Yes.
because the world is so overwhelming, particularly now, the chaos that we're happening. As I said, kind of like what's true for me and what isn't true for me. And it's almost like giving yourself a reset. And for me, I do go on retreat every year just to have
Mm.
a reset, just to be able to sit with myself, just to be able to experience going through the sense of feeling lonely and understand the difference between that and being alone. Being alone is very empowering. Being lonely is
Yes.
difficult, and we all have to, as part of our journey, we have to come to the terms with the suffering of loneliness. It's part of the human condition.
Interestingly, I had it turn up in a reading yesterday, and the querent, who was having the reading done, is at stage in her life where the children are flying the nest. She's really pretty much been there for the family, and now, and she's taken a course in something, but she's not really enamored with it, and she doesn't really know what she wants to do. And the hermit turned up, so guiding her to say, right, take a step back. Really, you need to decide. You need to have a think now. This is a great time in your life for you to do you. She'd always done other given to everybody else, which was reflected in the reading actually, that came out, that she was constantly giving, and that now this was a time for herself.
Yes, and I think it's learning to trust that the universe will sort things out. It
Yeah.
may not happen immediately, but we've forgotten the golden nugget of allowing things to unfold. We want things all the time now. I want to be fixed now. And life isn't
Yes.
like
What's
that.
an answer now?
We've been given 70 and 10 in the traditional
Yeah.
understanding of our life expectancy, and we have that length of time to sort ourselves out, to learn about who we are, but we need to be able to retreat and reconnect with who we are in order for us to be able to shine our light.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. Right.
Okay, thank you
Move
very
to the
much.
wheel of fortune. Yes, thank you very much, Hermit. Thank you. You
So
are dispatched.
we go to, oh,
Oh, we like this one.
we
Number 10. Number 10 in the pack, practically slap bang in the middle.
this one is full of symbology,
Oh, well,
which is
I've had to make some notes
go on,
to
go for
remind
it,
myself to mention everything.
Gail. Go for it.
Well, okay, my favourite is the four winged creatures, because I love my elements that represent earth, air, fire, and water.
Yeah.
And so, what interestingly, and I didn't know this fact because I do delve a bit deeper just before we do these, that later on, they're yellow at the moment, which is a colour for reflection, thinking, learning, and then later on they reappear in full colour at the end of when we get to the end of the pack, because they've completed their cycle, and each one has a book. Each
Yes.
one is reading. Hold on a minute, and I've got what they're each reading about somewhere. I'll come back to that in a sec. But Yes, so various aspects of knowledge are each reading, but they represent the four elements which we know is part of the minor arcana cards. So, yes.
For me, it's about the alchemical process of life, which is
Yeah.
the great opus magnus. It's the great work, and the work is about turning to face ourselves. And I think the Wheel of
Yeah.
Fortune is constantly presenting us with life's lessons, and we can either run away, or we can be overwhelmed, or we take a breath because we've done our inner work as the hermit, and we go, yes, okay, I'm going to respond to this rather than react to it. What I love about this card, it's got the we've got the word of Torah on the outside of the rim of the wheel, the wisdom of the world, or the wisdom of facing your fate, or doing the work that you are required to do, and understanding the cycle of life and death, which we constantly experience throughout our life: birth, growth, maturity, and death. And
Mm.
everything that happens in our life has a point of culmination. That's with the top of the wheel. And then as soon as we've culminated, this is very strong in astrology, by the way, in how we look at the cycles in astrology, everything has a point of culmination. And then it starts the waning process. The more you
Like
start to share, it goes down, you start to share the wisdom that you have or you've experienced with other people, rather than the waxing, which is the building up from the new, what we call it, the new moon up here, building it up here,
yeah.
which is all about reaching out and learning. So there's a whole process going on constantly within our psyche. But I just wanted to say, the other thing which I love particularly about this card is the alchemical symbols that are in it. Can you see them here?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so these are mercury, water, sulfur, and salt. And mercury is about spirit and the mind, and sulfur is to do with the soul, and salt is to do with the body decaying. And of course, water carries all of that. And according to the alchemists, these are the qualities, or the alchemy that's required for us to have our own alchemical process of turning the base of who we are, the sort of the darkness of who we are, into the light. And I
Yeah.
just love this.
Well, it's just representative of the fact that life is in constant motion. It's a wheel. Life is in constant motion. And also, I mean, if this turns up in a reading, it generally means there's change, there's growth, there's momentum, there's new paths forward.
Yeah.
But yes, it represents this whole, and it's right in the middle of the Arcana card. So for the Fool, it's just a reminder that, again, what goes around comes around. I think
Yeah.
there's also an element of karmic message within the Wheel of Fortune as well.
Yeah. And this is really symbolized by the Anubis here. He's the Greek god that
Yes.
would take people by their
Mm.
hands and the dead, and lead them to the seat of judgment, where the
Yeah.
judges would weigh their soul against a feather. I love all of that
Oh,
Egyptian. It's absolutely wonderful to
yeah,
see,
that
whether they're
mythology.
being cool or not, actually. And then we've got the symbol of Seth on this other side, which symbolizes evil, or I don't like using the word evil, but the sort of the darker sides of life.
Yeah.
And then the
Shadow.
phoenix at the top up here, which is all to do with rebirth. That's very
Yeah.
Pluto. So the journey of life is a constant process of powerful understandings, powerful alchemical processes that lead you forward in your understanding. If you turn to face it, you have to have the
Yes.
courage to say, I'm going to take responsibility for myself of everything that happens to me in my life, however it comes to me.
And generally, it's a lovely card. It means good luck and fortune are coming your way. But like you've just said, you need to face up to everything and to understand that things are constantly changing. Things never stay the same. So if you feel stuck in life, if you feel stuck in a situation, it's a moment in time. Things are going to move on. Things are going to progress.
Yes.
We're not just always stuck here. And this is a reminder that life's in constant motion, constant change.
Yes. And it's up to us how we respond to what's happening with us,
Exactly.
because life is the mirror. So, what's going
Yes.
on in your mirror? And if it is something that you don't like, then you need to go back into the hermit's phase and do some work on you.
Yes. Step back to our hermit. Step back. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I love this card. Love it when it turns up because it is generally a card of good luck and good fortune. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. As long as we take
very
responsibility.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Wheel of Fortune. So he's having
We
big
love
lessons.
you.
He's having big lessons at the moment about the unconscious, the power of the unconscious, and how that always is making itself known. So he's really beginning to learn about himself on the higher aspect, or the more conscious aspect of what makes him who he is. Yeah. Right.
Brilliant.
Our last card of the day.
Justice. And again, karmic. It's about what you reap, you sow. Basically, it's a reminder that when any action has a consequence, and so justice is all about taking a reflection of your actions and what you're doing, and that whole karmic path forward.
Yeah.
Again, it's telling the fool that from right here in the middle of the pack, it's giving them a lesson about fairness, balance, karma. Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about this card is justice, which is with astrology. This is the sign of Libra, the sign of justice. Is sitting between the two pillars of wisdom, which we met with the high priestess. She was sitting between them, and so was the Hierophant. So this is kind of the justice is about what have we learned about ourselves that we can turn into wisdom. And again, it's this sense of, for me, it's about learning to use brain, wisdom, not brawn, not to
Yes.
fight, but just to sit in wisdom and reflect and think, is this right or is this wrong for me? And it's not about judging somebody else. It's about, is this for my highest good and for the highest good for all around me? Or is this something that I really need to pay attention to and make some changes in my life? And it's all about this, how, when I know I'm on the right path, when I feel harmonious in myself.
Yes. So we've had the hermit thinking and reflecting. We've had these wheels in motion, and now it is about your actions. And like you say, making sure that you sit in harmony. Interestingly, the figure, there's a lot of red on this, and red is a powerful
Yes.
colour as well. But it's like you say, it doesn't necessarily mean power, doesn't mean brawn. Power
Yes.
means um, choosing your battles wisely, as I was once
Yes,
told.
absolutely. And he's sitting in the same colors as the emperor. Now the emperor would
Yeah.
use brawn, but this is different. The sense of justice is it's sort of like this need to balance the mind with compassion and mercy. And I
Mm.
love the concept of what mercy means. It's such an old word that's not very often used these days, but to be merciful with ourselves, because, we say we all cock up, and perhaps be
Yeah.
merciful with others. And that's about not rushing in and having major arguments or battles or anything like, but just gently say, right, what's right relationship with this? That's the
Yeah.
Buddhist way of thinking, right relationship.
And also the message that you are where you ought to be right now. Sometimes people want to be somewhere else,
Yes,
but justice
absolutely.
kind of turns up and
Yeah,
says, this is where you need to be right now on your journey, your
Yeah.
journey to enlightenment. It
Yeah.
can also, when it's the reading, it can also mean there's some legalities around you and so forth. But again,
Absolutely.
that would need context of a reading. But obviously, we're just talking about it in its truest
Yeah.
sense of its meaning.
I mean, if somebody comes to a reading having an issue with a legal thing, then absolutely that can just on the face of the card, that can come up and really, yes, and describe what that legal issue is about. So there may be legal battles going on, or a need for legalities, or paying attention to legal documents, or all of that kind of thing. That is the face value of this card. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
I'm just wondering about the sword, because he's got scales in one hand, which we know is Libra and justice and so forth, with the representation imagery wise. And then we've got the sword, which generally it's knowledge, isn't it? The sword
Well,
represents.
I like to, yes, I like to think it's the Athena's sword, and she is
Yeah,
the Queen of Justice. So there is this sense
yeah,
of wisdom, of using your intellect. Don't, not coming from the space of overwhelming emotional reactions which cause havoc, but just sitting with this sense of discrimination. And it's all about lessons of discrimination.
definitely. And air, of course, which is associated with
Absolutely.
that. The thinking.
So it's about using the intellect, not yes, the mind rather than the battle.
Yeah. And then number 11, anything to be said about the number 11?
Well, the number 11
Quite
is,
a number, isn't it? 11.
sorry,
It's quite a spiritual number, 11,
well,
isn't it?
it's
Quite a.
traditionally called the Christ number. So it's
Okay.
higher teachings. The number 11 is attuned to to the Christ teachings. And I think justice is a higher teaching. If you think about how the power of justice, which is the power of judgment. We'll be talking about the card of judgment later on, but this sense of what is fair, what is just, and what is fair. And sometimes people need to sit in judgment over us. What we have done, is it right and fair? Is it in right relationship? And I think if we use those, am I in right relationship with my life, with the world around me, and the people I know, then you're doing pretty well. Life will be in balance for you.
And to summarize, it's also about taking responsibility again and accountability for your actions, much like the Hermit, the message the Hermit was giving, that
Yeah.
karmic. I think all three cards sitting in the middle very much have a karmic lesson about taking responsibility for your actions and choosing your battles wisely and thinking about your path and your next steps.
Yes, and we don't really understand ourselves until we go inward and do the
Yes.
alchemical journey
Do
of
the work.
do the magnus opus, the great work, which is, who am I?
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely. That's a lovely. I think we should end there. That was a good